Hey, what's going on, scholars? It's your professor here, Enlightened Enlisted, and today we're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of each campaign here at Enlisted. Now, as you guys know, I play a lot of Enlisted on stream in my personal time, and I've pretty much maxed out everything at this point. My experience in each campaign has been unique and overall enjoyable, but let's face it, some campaigns are just better than others. Now, let's start off with the most popular campaign out there, Normandy. Without a doubt, it has the highest player base of all the 4 campaigns, but Normandy is a weird bag of some super veteran players and the noobest of the noob. Just starting off a game, you can find out whether or not it's going to be a curb stomp or if you're going to struggle the whole game. Each faction has access to super powerful weapons late in the progression tree, which makes Normandy a little bit of a shit show in my opinion, and if you are a newer player, that can be very disheartening. If you don't believe me, go on Reddit and just type in P47, FG42-2, Sherman Jumbo, Panther, or BAR2, and you're going to see a bunch of posts complaining about how OP they are and how they need to be nerfed. These super powerful weapons lead to a distinct meta where the player base is almost reliant on using these in order to be successful on the battlefield, and that is a real shame. For all you whales out there, Normandy has some of the best premium squads you can purchase. The American Johnson Rifle Engineer squad is still probably one of my favorite squads to use, and you have the German Polish version of the captured BAR. Despite having some of the most awesome gear in the game, you're going to literally play on the worst maps in the game. They are literally trash. Sure, Labrie and Ruins of Oz are good, but swamps, airfields, both D-Day maps, and all the conquest maps on this campaign bring it down a tier in my opinion. With the terrible level design, you can expect pure chaos. It's just artillery spam, being murdered from the air, and a bunch of tanks camping in the gray zone. I have found, however, in my experience, Normandy is the only campaign that people actually dogfight, and that is only out of sheer necessity, so if you have a War Thunder pilot ace on your team, you're in good shape. If you haven't caught on yet, I absolutely loathe this campaign, which is a shame because it has some of the most unique gold weapon orders you can get. But sitting and playing this campaign after maxing it out, you want to develop a horrible drinking habit. When newer players come into my stream, I absolutely advise them not to play Normandy. There are so many other campaigns that are beginner friendly. Alright, so I was pretty hard on Normandy, but what about the OG campaign, Moscow? Well, the Moscow campaign is one of the slowest moving infantry combat based campaigns you can find. The air war is pretty limited and ineffective due to the map design, but I will say the Stuka and the IL-2 are still really good. The tank play, however, is horribly imbalanced. T-50s rule the land and with an iron grip, and no panzer shall pass unharmed unless you are willing to shell out $50 to get a premium tank and show Comrade Stalin how effective the heat rounds are. Even with this imbalance, I find that tanks overall are more of a menace than a killing machine. You should avoid them or build an AT gun to take them out from afar. Plus, if you find yourself up close, you always have that trusty explosive pack. The AT rifles in this campaign are meme level snipers and always a fun time, but when the bullets disappear, it is disheartening as hell. The campaign has one of the coolest premium squads in the firepower bundle. The Lewis gun and the dual drum mag MG13 are awesome. Being able to get the PPD early gives the player base a good SMG early on, and the regular MG13 unlock is basically a modern day assault rifle. If immersion is your thing, well, the game characters in this campaign look the best out of them all. But there is a premium squad that looks a lot better in another campaign, and we'll get into that later in the video. I can't recommend Moscow for newer players enough for 2 reasons. One, 90% of the veteran players have probably already moved on to grind other campaigns, and 2, you can master the bolt action in this campaign, a skill that will serve you well in all Enlisted campaigns. Moscow is where I fell in love with Enlisted. It was the only campaign out there when I first got into this game. The gunplay is fun, and the unlocks aren't the standard World War II shooters that you are used to. On the flip side, I will admit that a lot of the levels feel exactly the same, and that is a real shame because the grind is always too long. Another thing about this campaign that feels the exact same every time is the levels. It is just snow, fields, log cabins, and then, oh look, a castle. Even though Moscow can feel really repetitive, I could play it honestly for hours just because it's so fun, and I highly recommend it to all new players. Tunisia is the land of sand, and where the fuck did I just get shot from? You know that skill that I talked about earlier, the bolt action being needed? Well, you're gonna need it in Tunisia. The bolt action is the supreme weapon. The levels are visually the best in the game and offer a lot of verticality that you don't see in any of the other campaigns. Snipers are going to be lurking in the shadows of a 3rd story window, and with the best snipers in the game on both sides, you are going to be killed a lot from afar. Alleyways are the perfect killing field for machine gunners, and the SMG game is pretty balanced in my opinion. If you're tired of the frontal assault tactics from Normandy, well, Tunisia offers you a lot of good flanking routes because it's very open. When I say open, I don't mean just a field. I mean you have buildings and alleys that you can cut around and get those good flanks on. Really, the more I think about it, Tunisia doesn't really have any bad levels. Some are more desirable than others, but Oasis is still way better than Airfield. With the addition of the motorcycle squad and of course the trusted battle bus, you're allowed to do some fast moving attacks and show us hopefully what we can expect from other campaigns to come. The premium squads in this campaign are the most unique looking and they are actually very functional. My favorites are probably the Moroccan squad, the Italian Marine squad, and of course the FNAB squad. One problem is tanks don't really scale well in this campaign, so if you're still using an A13 or an AB41, you're going to get one tap from those Panzer IIIJs or the Grants. The good news is you can pick up either one of those squads with a gold tank order, so if you haven't done that already and you don't have the T50, I would suggest either or of those, whichever side of this campaign you're trying to grind out. For the air war, the Stuka and the SPD-3 are both dive bombers and do require a little bit of practice to hit the perfect mark, so you're not going to get bombed into oblivion like you do in Normandy. Well, at least not yet. This is because the progression tree is not completed yet, so we don't really know what's going to happen in the later part of Tunisia, but I hope they keep with this balance that they're going with. One of the biggest problems though with this campaign is the progression tree, and it's because you are unlocking a Thompson 5 different times, and it gets very boring because you're getting the same repeat rifles that you have in Normandy on both sides. The gold weapon orders on this campaign are okay, the VPM being the best, but I don't know, I just feel like I want to spend my gold ticket somewhere else. Tunisia for me is kind of that middle of the road campaign. Not too bad, but not great either. Maybe with the addition of some levels and game modes in this campaign, it'll blow up, but right now it's just kind of meh. I will say, however, it is very easy for you to just mentally go to level 29 than it is going to level 34. So if you're a newer player and you want to kind of get a head start on a campaign, I would suggest Tunisia, but I don't know, it's yet to be seen. Alright, last but certainly not least, Berlin, the rubble Mad Max world of pure death. Like seriously, if you're looking for a laid-back game of Enlisted, Berlin is not the campaign for you. Now if you're an infantry only Chad, then Berlin is for you, and that is going to have you doing some MLG style shooting. I would say that 80% of your engagements are within 10 meters. You better have cat-like reflexes and hit that guy at point-blank range. To climb the leaderboards of this campaign, you're going to need to rely on the SMG, the MG, you can also use the flamethrower, and shotguns are starting to make their way back with the new buff. To me, Berlin reminds me of playing on Factory in Tarkov. It's fast, in your face, and you better know what you're doing. With the addition of the CeeLo Heights level, you do have some engagements that are going to be a little bit longer now, and that armored train new game mode actually makes it where it's a very good way to get a lot of XP. That addition also makes Berlin one of the campaigns that offers you a really unique experience. You go from the city to the forest, which is something we don't see in a lot of other campaigns. You're pretty much stuck with that one scenery. The scenery in Berlin is the gold standard for Enlisted. That scenery had so much immersion to it. You can see the Reichschancellor, you can see the Brandenburg Gate, you know exactly where you are fighting. This adds a level of connection to the campaign that you don't feel in the other campaigns. Tanks and airplanes really aren't a problem on most of the levels. You can avoid them in the rubble of the city streets, throw an explosive pack on them, or just get out of the way of the bombs. Plus, you have the best AT in the game with the Panzerfaust. So if you're a vehicle main, Berlin really isn't the campaign for you. On the CeeLo Heights, it is really good to use an airplane or the Tiger tank, but I find most of the tank engagements are kind of head on, and it's pretty much who shoots first and knows exactly where to shoot. So if you're a newer player, it's going to be really rough on you. The weapon unlocks are really cool. They're, these like nitty gritty German weapons when they're trying to get their industry together. You have the PPSH, you have the MP40, and a lot of the classic German weapons, but it's really dependent on fast firing. Bolt actions do not reign supreme on this campaign. You have some really good gold weapon unlocks as well, so I would suggest looking into investing your gold weapon order in this campaign. Is it beginner friendly of a campaign? Not really, but it is worth playing because it has that classic feel of like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, just running around, spraying, and killing people. It's probably why it's my favorite campaign of them all. Alright, scholars, that's all I have for you today. If you want me to do a real life review of where you are fighting in the other campaigns and the history behind them, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, scholars, hit those books and hit those bottles. Cheers.